to transportation. Open the hearing on Senate Bill 161. Revisor Wagner, would you brief us, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, committee. Senate Bill 161 would provide for the use and implementation of personal package delivery devices on sidewalks and crosswalks. We exempt these devices from motor vehicle requirements and allows local governments the ability to prohibit such devices. Section 1 begins with providing definitions for terms used throughout the bill. Most important definition being that of personal delivery device, which is a powered device that weighs 150 pounds or less, excluding cargo, that is operated primarily on sidewalks and crosswalks and intended primarily for the transport of property and is capable of navigating with or without the active control or monitoring by a person. It would also define what an operator is, a personal delivery device operator, which means an employer or agent of an entity that exercises control or monitoring over the navigation system and operation of the device and can actively control the device during operation. Section 2, on page 1, going into page 2 and 3, contains requirements and restrictions for the operation of these personal delivery devices by an entity. Beginning with personal delivery devices are authorized to operate on any sidewalk or crosswalk of a municipality, the public highway of a municipality for the limited purpose of gaining or regaining access to a sidewalk or crosswalk. And it would also require devices to yield to all vehicles and not unreasonably interfere with traffic. These devices cannot block public rights of way, shall obey all traffic and pedestrian signals, not operate more than 6 miles per hour, and primarily display a unique ID number and contact information for the controlling entity. The device should also be equipped with a system that enables the device to be actively controlled and operated and to avoid pedestrians, pets, vehicles, bicycles, and other objects with or without such active control. These devices have the same rights and obligations that are applicable to pedestrians on sidewalks. The devices are exempt from motor vehicle registration requirements. However, the Senate Committee of the Whole added a provision that would subject these devices to annual commercial vehicle fees for vehicles that are 10 to 12,000 pounds. Entities that operate personal delivery devices are required to maintain an insurance policy that includes general liability coverage of at least $1 million, and that's required for the entity to hold that policy. And then the bill would also require these devices to be equipped with lighting when operated at night or on any public highway. And they must be equipped with an audible warning system capable of detecting and warning blind persons of the device's proximity. And then finally, they cannot transport hazardous materials. Section 3 would allow local units of government to prohibit personal delivery devices if that local government determines that the prohibition is necessary in the interest of public safety. And then finally, Section 4 just excludes personal delivery devices from the definitions of vehicle and motor vehicle. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Representative Francis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What's a commercial vehicle size that's 10 to 12,000 pounds? Is that a pickup truck, or is that, what's that comparable to? It said that they would pay those fees.
I'm not exactly sure what type of vehicle other than the weight, but the important part is just that the devices or the entities are required to pay that same fee.
So there's not a specific designation in the statutes of what a 10 to 12,000 pound vehicle is?
No, in the statute that points to, it's mainly just a fee table that's referring to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when they say the fees, are they also talking about the personal property tax that those vehicles pay, or are they just talking about the registration fees?
Just the attached fee. It's not a property tax fee.
Okay. Do we have that information in our data? In any of our, have we been provided with that information on what those fees are?
Yeah, and the statute for up to 12,000 pound vehicles, it kind of depends on the age, but if the vehicle age is 1 to 3, it's $250. 4 to 6 years of age, $200, and 7 years or older, it's $150. So again, that kind of just specifically applies to commercial vehicles, but it's just that what that provision's saying is that those fees are applicable to personal delivery devices, even though those devices are not a vehicle.
So the way it reads, they would have a one-time fee of $250 under this bill if it was brand new,
No, it is an annual fee.
or an annual fee of $250. Okay, thank you.
Representative Delperdang.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Top speed on these devices currently are 6 miles per hour. Is that correct?
Yes.
But I'm a little miffed when it talks about lighting and operating at night on a public highway at 6 miles an hour. I mean, is that in the current bill?
Yes. Well, they can incidentally operate on a public highway to gain or regain access. So yes, they have to have lighting when they are operating
on the shoulder or actually on the highway?
Presumably be on the shoulder, but it's like I said, the devices are authorized to operate for the limited purpose of gaining or regaining access.
Thank you.
Further questions for the revisor? Hearing none, thank you. First proponent I have is Ashley Delatorre. Welcome to the committee. I probably butchered your name, and if I did, I'm sorry.
It is on now. I'll start over. Thank you, Chairman Prail, Ranking Member Helgerson, and members of the committee. My name is Ashley Delatorre, and I'm a Director of Public Policy at Amazon. It's an honor for me to be back home in Kansas and appear before this committee. I'm the proud product of Kansas Public Schools in Manhattan, Topeka, and Lawrence. And I got my start in public policy in this building as a house page when I was in middle school. During college, I interned for House Majority Leader Tim Schauenberger. And after graduating from the University of Kansas, I moved to DC to work for Senator Pat Roberts, where I covered transportation issues. That's what eventually led me to Amazon, where I currently lead our transportation and sustainability public policy teams. And my work includes supporting the teams across the country, including over our 8,000 employees in Kansas, that help get goods into, through, and out of our fulfillment centers and last mile delivery stations and onto customers in 2 days or less. I'm proud of Amazon's growth in Kansas. In fact, we have invested over $4 billion in our people and operations since 2010 and have employees at 6 fulfillment and sortation centers, 2 delivery stations, and 3 Whole Food Market grocery stores in Olathe, Overland Park, and Wichita. Amazon continues to develop and partner in new and exciting ways to deliver for customers, whether via the Postal Service, our partners at UPS, and our own delivery services and innovations, which is why I'm here to talk to you about Amazon Scout, our last mile delivery device built in America and designed to safely get packages to customers. Scout is a fully electric, autonomous delivery system that we launched over 3 years ago. Scout is the size of a standard cooler, and it rolls along at a walking pace to deliver packages to customers. The device has been designed for safety, which is our top priority. And as it rolls along, Scout is able to stop or navigate around people, pets, or anything else in its way. It also provides visual and audio cues to alert people of its presence. Customers order just as they normally would, and their package will be delivered either by one of our trusted carrier partners or by Amazon Scout. Today, Scout is operating in communities in Georgia, Tennessee, Washington State, and California, though I'm hopeful we can launch in Kansas, which is why Amazon supports SB 161. The bill would create a personal delivery device statute allowing devices like Amazon Scout to operate here, providing new and convenient delivery options for customers. I ask for your support of SB 161 and thank you again for the opportunity to appear before you.
Representative Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here today. I haven't seen one of these in action yet. How does it go? The device go from your headquarters, or where does this device, I guess, start its path?
So we have a couple of different options. You could imagine that they would be based out of a Whole Food Market grocery store. They start there. They're provided their packages. They go out into a local neighborhood and then return back at home. Alternatively, we could rent space at a local shopping mall and have them there. And again, they would access sidewalks to deliver to customers and then return back. It's like the side, as I said, a cooler, small with little wheels, and it rolls along slowly delivering.
And they hold, how many pounds do they hold?
So I think they can fit 5 to 6 packages. Most of our packages weigh under 5 pounds each, so it's a small payload.
When it gets to the destination, does the customer have to come out and take their product out, or does it just drop the product on the doorstep?
Right now we're in those field tests in those 4 communities, and what I've seen is the folks come out and pull it out of the cooler, the Scout, and then it rolls on to its next location.
And it could take multiple at a time.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hauser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Over here. What's the range on one of these things?
Well, we anticipate a 45-minute radius from the delivery station.
Well, I fly a lot of drones, so I know when your battery gets low, it has to come home at some point.
The idea is that it will always come home. It will not stay out on the street.
Okay, and back to your delivery. I'm not making fun of Amazon or anything, but I would expect an ejection seat type of a delivery where when it gets to your front porch, it just throws it up on there and leaves. So that I get a lot of that a lot of times. But I was more worried about, not really worried, but the range of it, like how you thought this could be profitable, because if it gets out there so far, especially when you're carrying a heavy payload, what do you do? What do you got plans for? Well, I'm sure you know how to track it, and all that, and see where it's at. But that's a few questions.
So thank you for the suggestion of the ejection seat. We're continually testing, but that's not currently part of our operations, but I appreciate that. But to your point about the idea is that they will come home at night. We do have a device that allows us to know where they are at what time to make sure that they are delivering appropriately. And that is an important part of our safety features.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The concerns I most frequently hear from constituents on this and on the other bill that we heard about driverless trucks is not about the safety as much as the jobs being supplanted. So I don't know if you have this data, but how many drivers is Amazon short in Kansas right now? Because that's, do you know that information?
I don't know the information, the data on that, but what I will say is that in Amazon's case, as we have found, is the more robotics that we put into our operations, the more people we need to hire. And that has continued in Kansas, that's continued across the country. So we really see a symbiotic relationship between using AVs and robotics in this way to allow us to hire even more people.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Any further questions? Representative Delperdang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate you being here. Just a couple if I could, but you've kind of already answered my first one. But who makes the final delivery to the customer door? So it's the customer coming out and they get the package out, et cetera, right?
That's correct. In our current field tests, that's how it's working.
What's the protocol if nobody's home?
Well, that will be Currently, what I'm seeing is it's when customers are home. So if they're not home there, we have other delivery options available to them, like what happens when you get your regular customer package today. So it's either via the Postal Service, via our Amazon Logistics, or one of our trusted carrier partners.
Okay. And then are there ADA type provisions built into these? What if I'm an individual who physically cannot get into the cooler and here's my package sitting there?
So we've designed it with those ideas in mind, and so we have options available to those with disabilities.
Okay. So when it gets in front of a person's house, does it call their phone? How do they know it's sitting out there?
My understanding is that the app will let you know that the device is on its way or nearing you so that you can come out and collect your package.
Okay. No further, thank you.
Representative Francis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so when you design these routes for the device, it says on here that they're supposed to be on the sidewalk, crosswalk, and then they can be on the road for a limited purpose only of gaining or regaining access to the sidewalk or crosswalk. What is that range? In other words, what's too far for it to be on the public road? I think about where our shopping centers are sometimes, and there's not adequate sidewalks from those to the residential areas.
Thank you for that question. I think it's important as we're mapping where it makes sense to be deploying these bots, and we'll have to take that into consideration. The idea is not to be using the roadways, but to stay on the sidewalk. But if, for example, the bot encounters a trash can blocking its way, it can simply leave the sidewalk, use the shoulder to get around it, and then the idea is to return back to the sidewalk.
But is there any prohibition or who determines that you're going too far? You're not using incidental roadway use. I mean, how's that determined?
Well, we would be following whatever is in the statute. The intent is not to be using the highways in that manner.
Any further questions? Representative Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you and welcome back to Kansas. It's good to see you here. Just had a question about the versatility of this Amazon Scout in the weather. Could you speak a little bit to that? And I have one follow-up question.
Well, it's like I said, we're testing in 4 communities. One of those happens to be in Washington State, where they get quite a bit of rain. So we're learning a lot about how the bot operates. I suspect that we will be learning from that to make sure that can operate in all conditions.
Thank you. And would this Amazon Scout be able to deliver a House bill to the Senate?
I'll check into that and come back
Okay.
to you.
We could maybe put it to use and run one between the revisor's office and the Senate. You know, it gets pretty busy in the last few weeks of the session. So
I'll let the team know.
okay.
Any further questions? Hearing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next proponent I have is Evan 12, and he's on remote. Welcome to the committee.
Well, thank you, committee members. I appreciate your time today. Evan Oneto with FedEx Corporation Government Affairs. On behalf of the 4,500 team members employed here in Kansas, I'm here to testify on SB requested amendments that I believe are before you. As e-commerce trends and COVID-19 has driven demand for same-day deliveries at a record pace and volume among consumers, advances in technology such as personal delivery devices, we believe FedEx's delivery bot, Roxo, will a unique role in this trend. Designed in partnership with the engineers at DECA, some of you may know from the Segway invention, Roxo's power base is derived from their iBot smart wheelchair. It has over 10 million hours of reliable real-world operation. Combined with a vast array of safety features, 360-degree cameras, depth sensors, radar, and LiDAR, and a cargo payload of up to 100 pounds, Roxo weighs in at around the same as a modern electric wheelchair. That is why we have requested a weight increase in our amendment. Without it, we could not operate in the state of Kansas. We have also requested an amendment to allow PDDs to operate on sidewalks at a max of miles an hour, when and where it is safe to do so, in order that we can reach a larger customer base and make more. This is in keeping with the standard in numerous other states that have passed similar legislation. 5 miles an hour less than the speed limit. Larger payload capacity, Roxo is also designed with a longer delivery range, radius of up to 5 miles. Why we've also requested an amendment to operate on the right shoulder of a road that it can reach customers outside of the downtown areas, potentially target certain residential suburban neighborhoods. Of course, this would we are glad to be requesting these amendments in conjunction with other by Amazon Kansas City municipalities. Taken as a whole, these changes how the state to while still providing for adequate local help connect businesses. Thank the chairman and committee members for hearing the critical attention. And if I may, I would just like to, I heard some good questions in committee I'd like to add on to a little bit. So hopefully I can answer in advance. So to clarify, in the amendment we are requesting to operate on a shoulder of a roadway where an adequate space exists for pedestrians or bikes. That is where we're looking to operate. Never in a road lane. So that's a good question. The jobs question came up. This came up last year in the Senate. I'd like to clarify, and I think Ashley touched on that well. I'd like to deepen that understanding a little bit, that this will not be delivering FedEx parcels or placing any driver in a FedEx van, right? This is entering us into a new line of business, which we don't currently exist in, same day delivery from retail. So that would be partnering your local hardware store, your local grocery store, your local drugstore, and providing same day deliveries to customers in nearby neighborhood. That's really the purpose. So as Ashley mentioned, anywhere we're going to be deploying this, it's only going to create new jobs, because as part of the technology, we are required to provide teleoperators. There's going to be maintenance staff, because this is housed with FedEx Office. So it's not taking any parcel delivery out of that stream. Increase the job market for us. And ADA compliance is also a question. All products that DECA makes, who we're partnering with, are being designed, and early manufacturing is occurring in New Hampshire. We're looking some point, I hope, in the Ohio area when we production up scale. All of their products, they make a lot of durable medical equipment. That's just standard design is for. I hope that I've anticipated some of those questions, but happy to answer.
Other questions for Evan? Representative Hauser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but what's your security like on these machines? I heard you mention pharmacies and things like that. What's to prevent somebody from not getting in, see one coming out of a pharmacy and say hijacking it, throw it back truck, take it out, say, hey, what we got in here?
That's a good question. Thank you. Well, we think that the weight and size of Roxo is kind of the first barrier. We believe that adds the security. It's not something you can just up and throw in the back of your pickup. It is a hard shell cargo container. That being said, anything can be broken into within time. That's, I think, where the teleoperator comes in. The cameras come in, right? Everything can be broken into, anything. We think it's safer because you would be recorded doing so. There would be a teleoperator witnessing it and would be able to contact you. So the systems combined, we think, actually makes it as or more safe than current deliveries.
Representative Hauser.
Follow-up question. We heard a bill a while back in Fed and State, and it was about delivery, and Amazon delivery was one of the proponents from Walmart about delivering online sales. And we were specifically talking about alcoholic beverages. So what kind of a preventative measure would you have to say you wouldn't have an underage person opening up this package?
Question, thank you. So we have not looked at regulated commodities as of yet. That we believe is something that will require a lot of work with regulators if and when we were ever to consider it. We're not at that stage yet. One of the things that has been discussed on a preliminary basis with certain retailers would be a possibility of ID scanning technology, but at least for our company's perspective, that's probably a very long ways away. Something you may want to consider bringing back before a legislative body to give us a regulatory framework for to even contemplate that, because it is potentially such a sticky issue. We've seen that even with same day delivery where people are delivering them. Definitely added a wrinkle to alcohol delivery. So not really considering it yet. Technologies all regulators are comfortable with.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there further questions? Hearing none, thank you. Does anyone, I don't have anyone else listed as a proponent. Does anyone else wish to speak as a proponent? Joel, are you on remote? Okay, we'll move on. As opponents, first I have listed Mr. Matt Hall, Teamsters Joint Council 56. Welcome to the committee. He's written only, okay, I didn't have him as written. So committee, you do have written testimony. I do have two other written testimonies in opposition, one from Jake Miller, Working Kansas Alliance, and Jordan Quanos, Executive Board Member of the Teamsters. Does anyone wish to speak as an opponent in person? Okay. Okay. Welcome to the committee.
Is this better? Okay, sorry.
Yep, you're good.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you, first of all, for your service and your time to the people of this great state of Kansas. First of all, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Jorge Quinones, and I'm from Topeka. I'm a service provider or driver for UPS. I'm on my 29th year of service as a full-time driver out of the center of Topeka. I'm proud to wear my Browns day in and day out, and I'm a proud Teamster member, like my father and my grandfather were before me. I would like to tell you my thoughts on this bill. I feel this bill is a threat to good-paying jobs here in Kansas and a threat to my personal financial security. Additionally, there are safety risks that this job has that are not being properly addressed. I am thankful and blessed to have a job that provides financial security and stability for my family. And securing that stability and maintaining it after my career comes to an end, it's very important to me. The last 2 years, our company has seen unprecedented growth in volume and record profits and the creation of jobs. These jobs provide top wages in our industry, health insurance, and pension protections. This is a good career for anyone and has provided for my family for years now. The bill will put my job at a risk and put the possibility of me being replaced by a robot. And on the safety issue, my concern is that this bill will force us and our children to share the sidewalks with large unmanned drones. My concern is the constant request of weight increase by Amazon. Today, I've heard anywhere between 150 and 200 pounds empty weight, but the potential for this device to be bigger and or heavier, it's a concern to me. It could be dangerous and disastrous. If this technology were to fail and run into someone then it would hurt them, potentially fatally. We asked your vote no on the SB 161. This technology is wrong for us and wrong for Kansas. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Representative Helgerson.
I have no idea what's going to happen to the bill, but I appreciate your concerns about safety, but I'm guessing, and I don't know if anybody else will say it, I think this is just about jobs. Can you give me an idea of what the average salary or average wage for a driver is?
Top scale wage for a package car driver, at this point is $40 an hour. At the end of our contract on the end of 2023, it will go up to $41 to $42 an hour. The starting wage is 21 to 25.
I'm guessing that it's these personal delivery vehicles that'll be out on the sidewalk are just one of your concerns. And I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but it's also the driverless vehicles that are all going to be out there too.
Correct. My concern is that this technology is unproven or is currently being tested. And as we all know, machines fail. I think that the volume that these machines are going to be taking, it eventually will eliminate jobs or hours. Right now, at this moment, with the volume increase in our facilities nationwide, we have drivers that are making six figures, and that is my concern.
I'm assuming that the union has done analysis and had discussions about what the impact would be. And I hate to put it on you, but you're the only one testifying. What's the financial impact to the state? How many jobs do we lose? How many,
I don't have those figures, but my point is that the constant investment in technology, I know technology it's an asset and a necessity in some places, but my concern is that when do we invest in people? People are paying taxes. People put you guys in office. And why do we continue to be investing in technology that's eventually taking work and wages away from workers?
I'm speaking for myself, but we're not able to stop the technology that's coming. Whether or not it's truckers on the highway, whether or not it's local delivery vehicles, or whether or not it's the personal, small vehicles. I think that what we can do is try to do a reasonable, compassionate transition, because I see these jobs, as much as I'd like to keep all those jobs, we're not going to be able to stop them forever and stop the migration to these new devices. And I share and I appreciate the scariness about losing the jobs, but it's going to be a real difficult transition. This will just be the first wave.
I understand.
But thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Representative Cywert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your talk. I appreciate what you do. If you've been driving a UPS truck, you probably never had to deal with crazy drivers out there, but I appreciate what you do, especially semi drivers. My fear is I agree with what you're saying. I work for the phone company, but they broke it up because we had people wanted to take the gravy of the crop. My feeling is this is the same identical thing. They're going to take all the inner city deliveries, and I live out in the country. You guys come out anytime I need it, no matter what the weather is, but that's going to raise my rates because since you lose all the gravy train of delivering in the city, like 20 packages in 2 blocks, maybe,
Yeah.
You come out 20 miles to deliver to me, my rates are going to go so high, I'm not going to be able to afford it anymore. And I agree with what the ranking minority member said. Technology is changing, but I think it's changing for a select few people, the people that are running these companies, because again, I don't think they really care about us. I appreciate you coming out there. And that was competition with the post office too, but still, my fear is this is going to change delivery systems in the rural areas because they're not going to come 25 miles from town to deliver a package when we need it, especially if you run a shop or a small business. And again, I appreciate what you do and driving with those drivers. I can't imagine 20 different ROVs driving, they're going different speeds. So appreciate that.
Representative Ballard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your honesty. Maybe it's a little uncomfortable for you to say that, but what you're doing is really speaking up for your job.
Yes, ma'am.
Not just your job, but thousands of people's jobs in many ways. Go ahead.
534 UPSers nationwide or company-wide. So
I guess I would have to agree with other comments. You can't stop progress. I mean, it's the way it is, and I think a lot of people are excited about it in many ways. However, I would just add, in terms of UPS drivers that come to my house and my neighbor's house, sometimes you just can't beat personal contact. Or ones that have come for a regular time, they know that this plant goes behind that pot on the left, to conceal it from the street. There's lots of personal kinds of things that happen. Maybe you can teach a robot all those different things if you want to call it a robot. But, I can only hope that maybe UPS will emphasize the personal deliveries that are there, and how I hear so many people say, I really value they come and they do this and this and this and that and the other. But I don't know what we can do about it either. But I do want to thank you for coming on behalf of all these other people to try to protect those positions, or at least highlight maybe the big differences that might be between the UPS drivers and this other delivery service. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are there further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Does anyone else wish to speak as an opponent? Seeing none, I have one neutral listed, and it's remote. Eric Saratoris. Welcome to the committee.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right, very good. I do appreciate the opportunity to zoom in here today. I apologize that my work took me out of town right now. We do stand as a neutral conferee on Senate Bill 161. This issue has been around for as long as there had been a pandemic. In 2020, Amazon brought forward a substantially similar bill, and at the time we opposed that at the initial hearing because it had no ability for communities to consider the impact of personal delivery devices. And so we've worked with Amazon for the past couple of years and agreed to the language that's seen in Section 3 of Senate Bill 161, and we've moved to a neutral position on the legislation. And while that's not perfect, it really does ensure cities, elected officials can consider whether these devices can work in their city. So then during the interim, after the 2021 session, we had additional discussions, and FedEx, Evan visited with us about some of their priorities, and we understand some of the changes they are seeking to the bill. Then the amendments that were made in the Senate really have no bearing on cities, so the Senate changes are not an issue to us. I do believe, working with Amazon and FedEx, there will be a balloon amendment offered when you work the bill, and it adds some additional elements to new Section 3 that we think are valuable. One is that it puts in place a hearing process so that companies would need to be notified and made aware if a city was considering prohibiting the devices. And in addition to that, there's other language in there that really increases our confidence that cities will be able to ensure public health and safety through regulations of the devices if those become warranted. So on behalf of the league and our member cities, I appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and I'll stand for questions when appropriate.
Are there questions for Eric? Hearing none, thank you very much. Does
Thanks, sir.
anyone else wish to speak as a neutral? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 161. Committee, you've received minutes of previous meetings for February 15th, 16th, 17th, 21st, March 3rd, 7th, and 8th. Representative Helgerson.
Mr. Chairman, I move the adoption of the minutes for February 15th, 16th, 17th, 21st, March 3rd, 7th, and 8th.
Seconded by Representative Delperdang. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, you may close.
Move the adoption.
You've heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Tomorrow, committee will be hearing a presentation on the Kansas Turnpike Authority by Steve Hewitt, the CEO. And the committee we will also hear Senate Bill 506. You should have all received a rescheduled date for the Big Springs Quarry Tour. It will be April 25th. And you should have received a notice on that, but please get it on your calendar and respond back if you're going to attend. With that, we are adjourned.